The area where I was born in Barbados looked like this. Not as many houses. Probably about 10% of the houses you see is what we have. Maybe less than that in that area. Around the city, a lot of houses, hotels, and about 10% of the trees. As a little kid going from the area where I live, going to school in the city boys will call me country. They used to laugh and say, talk about the trees and the animals. And I had no argument with that. At the time I was a kid, didn't know the value of the trees and the animals because these same people ate what we brought to the city to sell from country. As I grew older, it's only then I began to think about it and really laugh at some of these people. And the same thing I'm seeing, Africa has everything, but the people who complain about Africa and Africans have nothing. Call you all kinds of names, call us all kinds of names. When I say call you, I mean African in general, me included. So don't go there. Call Africans in general all kinds of names and berate us for having nothing. And truthfully, we leave our place to go their places to go to school and work and all that. Just like me leaving the country to go to school in the city. Look happened, to the leader who was leader once in technology. Where if you go back in history, you see Africa making iron, Africans making iron before the rest of the world heard about it. Africans sailing across the Atlantic before the rest of the world. It's only when the Romans and Carthaginians, well, they were Africans too, but they were mixed from the north. And they learned about the journey of Africans across the Atlantic, across the Pacific. They too built ships and followed. That led to the slave trade and the destruction of that technology of Africa. People took it to Europe, make guns out of it, and we know what happened to the world because we're looking at today. I'm talking about river of technology. Somebody else took our technology, all of it now. Forgetting, forgetting diamonds out of the ground, gold out of the ground. Used it to make themselves rich. While Africa was starving around them. They came here and used the technology that Africans used to grow, or even they took Africans to America and grew tobacco and cotton, rice, and all the other crops that were grown in America, using the methods that Africans took to those lands to make themselves rich. Africa stopped growing rice, and stopped growing the crops that they used to grow. And the same Caucasians started growing it in Africa, exporting it. Still the African going from a level of supporting himself and creating technology to being dependent. Starving. Now, the Africans abroad now learned all that technology and even created the technology that we are using today. But Africans are still starving. And it goes back to that education of each other, between each other, with each other, learning about each other. Growing up in Africa, you see what Africa is like, but growing up in the Caribbean or America, you don't know what Africa is like. I have no idea. People who come here make videos and tell you how beautiful it is, and you come without even bothering to study the videos correctly. And the people who come here, a lot of them leave out information that are pertinent to what you should know about Africa. So you have governments here that don't actively go and say, look, come to Senegal and start this university. Start this college of science. We give you the money to teach our brothers the knowledge that you know. And a lot of you didn't pay attention to what China did. China did the same thing. First, they recruited other Chinese to come in and teach their children, and then they sent their children to America. And when a lot of them stayed, they sent 1,200,000 stayed, but the other 800,000 came back home. Built that base. Chinese abroad came back, made the connection with Chinese in China, and that information goes back and forth now. The connection and the education between us is gone. It needs to be fixed. Everybody's looking in the future and say, oh, the future belongs to Africa. There's no guarantee. I'm telling you, there is no guarantee that Africa will rise up. There are always other nations who are looking at the future. Their leaders Look at India. They got the independence just like all of Africa. Their government striving to build something that's beneficial to India. So if the Chinese rise up, it's pulling the economy of India along with it because of the knowledge of the teaching Indians knowledge, giving them knowledge, educating them. The Indians abroad investing in India. But we have a problem here where Africans are afraid to invest in Africa because of experience. You come here to invest and you can't really find reliable, trustworthy people because of that lack. Everybody is trying to take from his brother whatever he can, however he can. And if you feel a certain way, then you should be here. Come and see it yourself. But that education is needed. That trust between us has to be rebuilt. And I keep telling people 2 years, 3 years maybe, already these people are talking of, and there's background rumble, background noise as we call it. Those of us who discuss these things, world issues, geopolitical issues, there's background noise about peace in Ukraine. And guess what? If they ever come to agreement in Ukraine, they're not going to stop attacking the rest of the world. They're still in the rest of the world. And our wars being fomented in Mali, between Ghana and its neighbors, and between South Africa and its neighbors, and inside South Africa internally, the Caucasians are getting scared. Because as the world turns, people are looking at what their family did, what they did, what their foreparents did, and they are scared of retribution. The land belongs to us, they're saying, but it doesn't. They know the truth. They know the facts. But that fear of not being on top of the Africans starving, they're thinking if the African becomes rich, where are we going to go? What will happen to us? And that fear is causing them to start a conflict in South Africa, just like they did in Zimbabwe. You got Africans who are fighting to keep Uganda and Tanzania from building a energy supply line, while the Europeans are going all out to get as much energy. These people are fighting. Oh no, we need clean energy. There's no such thing as clean energy. Even the sun, you don't read to see that the sun produces radiation that that harms life. So it's a matter of how you use it now. Don't just follow somebody who's gonna say, you know what, we're supposed to be making electric cars. You know how the power, the energy that charge the electric batteries in those cars, you know where it comes from? The same fossil fuels that these fools that tell you is no good. You know where the hydrogen is coming from? You need tremendous amount of power to make hydrogen. So the people who have this knowledge need to be sharing it, telling you, and start to use it wisely. How to use it wisely, you know? As you're building the pipeline, put in safety so that it doesn't contaminate the land, you know? The least amount of contamination possible, you know? That's the way you do these things. You bring the knowledge from where you are to do it back to Africa. That's what we need, that connection. You know how many patents the Black Americans have? And if they could get credited for the ones that were taken, there hardly be any patents owned by America, the Caucasian. From growing food, how to grow rice, tobacco, to military hardware, space. We need that information to be transferred. African leaders better get moving, otherwise you're going to lose the opportunity. No matter how far back you push it. Right now we should have a realistic, and everybody, ministry at every level should have somebody in Ethiopia sitting down every day discussing these things. Every state in Africa should have someone in Ethiopia. How? Let's make a plan. We're going to build this university in this state. It's going to deal with teaching our children how to be the best cardiac surgeons, the best, you know. Every state have one. We're going to build this university. It's going to educate this campus. Space. Africa needs at least 3 of them. Horn of Africa, South Africa, and West Africa. Building aircraft. At least 3 of them. Same thing. But different locations. You know, you might build it in Central Africa, Congo, one in North Africa, and one in Zimbabwe. But you put these centers of technologies in different locations, so the whole continent rise up. But you need that people to people across the Atlantic and Pacific, African, at home and abroad, talking to each other. Anyway, sorry to interrupt the morning with this rambling, you know. I hope you enjoy the day wherever you are. Be safe. Peace.